Howdy folks, I'm back from Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Hopefully you saw this weekend's video. And I got another harp video for you. So if you're a subscriber to my channel, you probably saw the unboxing video of this a couple weeks back. And Aklot sent this to me to review, and I really like it. Now granted, I'm not a harp player, but I really liked it. And I really only had one complaint about it in the review, and the complaint was that the color coding on the strings out of the box was way wrong. And if you can see this now, not sure how well it's going to come out, but now it is 100% correct. So the way that a harp should be strung, according to the convention, the C's should be red, the F's should be blue, and everything else should be that clear or white color. And that is exactly how it is strung now. So I fixed it. I have to send two shout outs here. First to Molly Khan. I will link to her channel in the description. And Molly is a harpist, and she is the person that got me into harps and started talking about them, and probably why I have this now. If it wasn't for Molly, I probably would not have this. So thank you, Molly. Love her channel. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you check it out. And she made a suggestion to me of Vermont Strings. Well, not directly to me. In one of her videos, she suggested Vermont Strings for harp strings. And so I got a hold of them, Vermont Strings, and Joan from Vermont Strings was super awesome to work with. So what I did is I took these replacement strings that are included, and I had hoped that they had the correct color coding, but they don't. They're exactly like the ones that came on the harp. But what I did is I took all of these and I took my caliper that I use to measure guitar strings and screws and other things like that. And I went through and I measured every single string on the harp and got the gauge of every single string and then marked them all out. And so I can tell you what you need if you want to do this. So if you get a hold of Vermont Strings, you need a 036 in blue, you need a 040 in red, and you need a 028 in blue. And all three of those strings will cost you less than $10. The strings are long enough that you can make at least 2 strings out of each one of those. So I actually ordered a couple other strings as well because Joan was very helpful and I didn't want to just spend like $7. So I ended up buying some other strings, and with all of that together, I still think with shipping it was like less than $15. So anyway, I rewound them. And so what I did is when I took these off, what I did is I took the old string and when I took the first one off, I completely straightened it. I took the ball end off from the back, and I unhooked it from the zither up here and straightened them completely out so that I could get the same length, so I could cut them to the same length, because I didn't know any of this, right? And so the way that Aklot actually does them, they loop this through, it goes through the hole, around, and through the hole again is how they've tied the string, and then of course it just winds around the peg. Down on the bottom, they've taken that ball end and they've basically tied a standard knot through it, but both parts of the knot go through the actual ball. There is something called a harp knot that's made for harp strings. That's not what Aklot used on this. So I just redid all 3 of those in the same way that Aklot did, cut them to the same length and everything, and they seem to work fine. Now the other mod that I did after I fixed the strings is, you know me, I love effects pedals and things like my modular synth over here and things that require you to plug stuff in. Well, we've got a jack now. See that? See that little jack? So this is now an electric harp. And what I did, if you want to repeat this step as well, I'll tell you how I did it. So you'll need a 40mm piezo disc, you'll need a couple lengths of wire, you'll need a standard 1/4-inch jack, and you'll need a couple of drill bits. And of course solder. So what I did is I took, before I actually mounted this, I took and I plucked every string and I felt around everywhere on the sound box to figure out where the most concentration of vibration is. And it's right here in the center is where you get the most vibration. No matter what string you pluck, you get the most vibration right here. And that makes sense because that would be the center of the sound wave essentially. So that's where I wanted to put the piezo. So I used a 40mm piezo, so it's about that wide, so that it gets a nice sampling of that vibration. and then I just wired it straight to the jack down here. And I drilled a 3/8 of an inch hole right through the side of the harp to mount the jack. And then I realized, I don't know if you can see this very well, but the jack, like the top of the jack is just barely above the top of the box. So it wasn't far enough for me to get the nut on there and get it tight. So I had to countersink it. So I actually countersunk it there using a Forstner bit. So if I was doing that again, if you try this, learn from my mistake, do the Forstner bit first, just go in about 1/8, maybe a quarter, even maybe like an 1/8, that's it. Just go in like an 1/8 on the Forstner, and then use your center of where the Forstner bit came out to drill the other hole, because I had to do it the opposite way, which is a lot more difficult, but I managed to get it in there. And then what's going to happen is when you're done, this finish around here is going to be on the inside of the where the Forstner bit was. It's not going to be finished anymore. Well, if you look at mine, you can see it is finished. And the way that I did that is I always have some stains around because, of course, of some of the other guitar work that I do. And Minwax has a color called Gunstock. And I had looked at some of the other things I had stained with Gunstock, and it was almost exactly this color. So I was like, well, let's try it. So I put just a little bit of Gunstock stain inside the jack hole here, and it just adhered perfectly, and you can't tell. It looks like, I think they may use Gunstock Minwax stain on these, because it's like the exact same color. So also, there's a good tip for you. Minwax sells those little touch-up pens in all their different stain flavors. So if you're worried about scratchers or dings, or if you ever get a scratch or ding on your Aklot harp, get one in the Gunstock color, and it should just be able to help you touch that up. So one thing I should note about the pickup, when you put that in there, you're going to want to secure it to the soundboard, and you're going to want to put it with the ceramic side up, with the smooth side down against the soundboard. So the smooth side is going this way, right, and the ceramic side is going that way. And I just use hot glue to attach them. I think it's the best thing. It works really well. And what I do is I just take the piezo, I put the hot glue right on the piezo, and then put a lot on there, and then just reach up under there and tap it in there. Now it is going to be hot because hot glue is hot. So I usually use a glove so that it doesn't burn your finger when you press it in there. And the glue is going to squish out a little on the side. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Let it squish out. And then I flip it over this way and put the tip of the hot glue gun in there, and I just coat the top in hot glue as well, and that helps pot it and makes it a little more resistant to feedback. It makes it feedback a little less if it's got that kind of hot glue all over it. And then just let that hot glue set. It starts to fix in just a matter of seconds, but it takes, you know, a minute or two to dry completely. And once it sets, you're good. That isn't going anywhere. That's a tried and true method. It's been used for years on acoustic instruments. Don't worry about that falling off or anything. Hot glue is very, very good for securing piezos in acoustic instruments. And then, of course, mount your jack, solder it together, and that's it. That's all there is to it. If you hold it against your body, you're going to deaden some of that vibration. So you want to leave just a little bit of a cushion there, or, you know, have it, if you have to have it touch your body, you want it to touch more up here or down here, opposed to right in the center of the soundboard. Now, that's true for the acoustic tone as well, right? I mean, just acoustically, if you pluck this harp and you have it pushed against you, it's going to be a lot less loud. You can even hear that on the video, I'm sure, than if you let it vibrate. So, of course, it's going to do the same thing with the piezo. That piezo is not going to get as much vibration if you hold it tight to your chest right there. So just be aware of that. But that's about the size of it. Two really quick mods to this thing. Straightening out the string colors so they match the standard harp convention. And then adding that piezo pickup. So you know what? One thing left to do, we got to plug it in and try it. Okay, so here we go. The harp is plugged in and we've got some crazy effects on her. Let's see what we can get. That's pretty cool.